What's up YouTube, Capital G here. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the meta and where I think it's heading. Mainly what's going to shake up the meta, well, some of them are out, some of them are not out, is number 1, Hidden Arsenal 4, number 2, Extreme Victory, and then number 3, to be released, Tech Genius Hyper Librarian. Okay, basically this video is for people who are like me. They don't like playing what is perceived to be the best deck. They don't like, going to regionals and playing 5 Teledad mirror matches and shit like that. So I'm going to give you guys some cards that I think will improve your deck right now, or cards that are really good if you're going for an anti-meta approach. It's very important because I would say 1 month from now, the format is going to be drastically faster than what you see currently right now. I'm going to talk about the 3 things that are going to impact the game really, really quickly. First off will be Hidden Arsenal 4, because you get Trishula and some decks such as the new Star Blast, Big Fish deck that can, summon it like 6 times on their first turn and then summon it again when you draw or whatever. So a lot of people are looking to spam Trishula or to make advantage and then end with the Trishula and just really wreck your field in hand. It also gives Fabled a big boost, and between that and Hyper Librarian, it actually makes Fable a very good deck, a deck that could hover around tier 1.5, maybe even tier 1 possibly. Second is Extreme Victory, pretty decent set. The most important thing in my opinion is Reborn Tengu, which is like malicious, but that any deck can run. It looks like it has some serious potential in Fabled, Plants. I think it will work really nice in Scraps, and it's just going to be an all-around good card. Halberd Cannon is also a key point in the Psychic Lockdown, so that's definitely really relevant. And then the last, Tech Genius Hyper Librarian, that's what I'm missing. That card is probably the second best synchro ever created after Dark Strike Fighter, and I think it's really just gonna change the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh, to be completely honest, especially decks like Fabled or Plants or Psychics that can make 2 of them in 1 turn. Alright, so we're going to talk about some of the choices that I like to fend off these decks that are just trying to synchro spam. And if it's not bad enough, getting synchro spammed like a deck like Karakuri does, you've got decks that are now going to synchro spam and draw at the same time, which is just even worse. First card I really like is King Tiger. King Tiger is really good. It's always been good against Samurai. You have this face up. They can't play Kagemusha. They can't play Kageki. I mean, the deck only runs about 13 monsters. It's really good in the plant matchup. Basically, I mean, if you have this on like a warning, they don't have a lot of options. They can't, go Card Trooper, go Lone Fire, Debris Dragon, any of that nonsense. You know what I mean? They basically are on the defensive. So I think this is a really good card against decks like Fabled and Psychic. If you get this out turn 1 against them, they're pretty much dead in the water. They have to resort to what little defenses they have, especially against Psychic. That deck doesn't even really try to play defense. I don't know. King Tiger isn't really good right now because you've got, you got Heroes and Gravekeepers, but as the other decks start seeing more play and those decks start seeing less, this card is going to be really good. Potentially in like anti-meta, gadgets and stun variants, or even Hero Beat itself. Second card, Fossil Dyna. If you've seen Robbie's last gadget deck, or just even been keeping up with the last couple of YCSs, you realize how important this card is. This card is basically, how like Dragonides do Protect the Stardust. This is basically Protect the Stardust for anything that doesn't synchro spam. You get this guy out, and against a lot of decks like Fish or Plants or Samurai, they basically just can't do anything. You just protect him, and it's pretty much good night. Also, always have to remember that you can just set it and then flip it. You don't have to worry about taking any damage and blow up all the cards on their field. So, against a deck like Psychics, you can't Halberd and Naturia Beast and all of that junk if I have this on the field, because you can't get over it. One of the cards I really, really, really like going forward is Skill Drain. If I was playing Blackwings or Heroes right now, I would probably start maining this. It's not excellent right now because, you've got decks like X-Sabers and Gravekeepers that it isn't that great against. But again, moving forward, those decks will see a little less play. And a deck like Heroes or Blackwing, where you're really not affected by it, I mean, this is just going to shine against the plant matchup. You have to look at it as a lot of these decks, they only play a little bit of Magic and Trap Hate. Even Six Samurai, I mean, sure, they play 2 MSTs and True Nade, but a lot of their Magic and Trap Hate come in monster form like Raikou or Lila or Sheen himself. If you get this out before they can get those cards on the field, it's pretty much just good game. 2 cards I'll couple together because I have one and I don't have another one. Black Shiny Sea or Shiny Black Sea. If you're playing a deck that can dump stuff in the graveyard very easily, like even Plant Synchro or Lightsworn, I think this is a really good card right now. Mainly because if you have this in the graveyard, excuse me, my phone started ringing. Okay, mainly because if you have this in the graveyard with those decks that mill a lot, like Card Trooper and stuff like that, Lightsworn, it kind of cuts off, it's like it cuts the head off so that the body dies. You really can't make a ton of advantage of Hyper Librarian or you really can't do that many offensive plays if I have this in the graveyard. People used to just play Stardust to get around this, and that was always a good option. But I mean, moving forward, I don't really think Protected Stardust is really going to work that well. So if I have this in the graveyard, it's kind of like a soft lock. You can't really go for the synchros you want. You definitely can't get Librarian out on me, so it limits your options. The second will be Max C, which is a really nice card, especially in decks that keep pretty big hands and don't commit to the field, like Monarchs or Fish. I mean, if your opponent if you know your opponent's going to do a big play, especially against plants and like Dragoonity, you discard this when they summon like Junk Warrior, and they summon whatever. That's already one draw. Now your opponent has to think, if they synchro, you're already gonna go +1 on them. Now if they try and summon like a Doppel Warrior, that's just another plus. It just cuts off what your opponent can do, especially like Dragoonity, because they have to they got to get Ducks, then they have to summon the Phalanx, then they have to synchro into a 6, then they have to resummon Phalanx again, then they have to summon a Stardust. Like, do you know how many cards I'm gonna draw for that? Almost certainly I'm going to draw something to kill what you just did. You know what I mean? So unless you're really going to OTK me and, perhaps I even draw on the Gorge or something like that, chances are I'm going to draw maybe about 3 or 4 cards and you're going to lose, or you're just going to have to stop and you're going to have a really bad feel of like Junk Warrior and Dandelion or something like that. So it's not in a good position either way. And then the last 2 cards I'll couple together. And the reason I couple all these cards together is because I know that every deck can't run these. So it's kind of like, pick and choose between all these cards. I'm sure your deck can run 1 or 2. Both of these cards are really excellent. They both put in some serious work against Plant Synchros. They're really good against the Fish matchup. Maybe Banisher a little less because they can summon Oystermeister and attack over it. But again, if you can protect them, you're in a very good spot. I also like both of these in the Fable matchup. I mean, all Fables have to go to the graveyard, so it just basically cuts them off from that. And I think these will be really good cards moving forward. I mean, when you look at a deck like Plant Synchro, which I think might be might be the most popular deck moving forward once Hyper Librarian comes out. I mean, they basically have Raikou for this guy, and then they have Lila for this guy, and I mean, those are really your only just instant outs. So both of these cards are really good, and I think that they definitely deserve a spot in some side decks. I mean, even decks like Hero Beat and Blackwings could even potentially main this. So, thanks for watching, guys. This is probably going to be the first of a 2 or 3 part segment because, I mean, you just can't talk about the entire meta and what's going to happen in one video. Thanks for watching.